I'm honored to be here, even though I earn my money in private sector. I'm very passionate about non-governmental and public sector as well. So, in a couple of words, just about what we do, and then I have presentation in two parts. So we are consultancy company that focus specifically on employer branding. We are pretty much the only ones who do exactly that in the Baltic states, and in Baltic states because many of our clients are pan-Baltic, but we are going further than that, and our clients are, as I told, mostly larger companies that work on the on Baltic level. That's one thing, and the second thing is most of them, even though they're quite diverse, but most of them are in the situation in a heavy need for people. So we have, let's say, Rimi, who just have very many vacancies as for demographic situation, and we have clients in IT sector which lack IT specialists, which is a general problem. As we know, before I go ahead, Linda has told me roughly who is in the audience. But then, could you help me by answering two questions? How many of you have problem hiring people or finding people? Could you just raise your hand? Okay. Oh, okay, good. And how? Then I assume that the rest of you have problem retaining or keeping or motivating people. Yes? Just one person have problems retaining and motivating people. Okay, a few others. Okay, well, let's see then. I'll try to give you tips and tricks on both attracting people and retaining. But before I go into local and international kind of trends, let me tell you why it's important and why I do have these clients. One reason, of course, is very known for all of you, and it is demographic crisis. For Baltics in particular, we have experienced very sharp drop after 1991. And as a result of that, let's say the audience 15 to 24 is 2.4 times less born, and then add those who emigrated for studies or otherwise. So we have 3 times less of young people to employ, and add to that people who have emigrated in older generation. So all of these companies and the rest of the companies, and I assume also public sector experience major shortages. And as a result of that, companies have started actively invest in their employer brand, in becoming better employers. But there is also other reason to that, and I would like to say that the reason for that is quite low or problematic starting position, or their employer brands or assumptions about what it means to work in the Baltic states. And before I show you the employer brand numbers for Latvian companies from a large survey done at the end of the last year, let me just introduce you with the statistics or the measurement I'm going to use. A majority of you probably know Net Promoter Score is a measurement widely used in private sector for clients, but also for employees. And the way it works, it asks indirect questions. So would you recommend your friend or acquaintance to work for this particular company? And this kind of question it is known to correlate better with actual behavior, so actually choosing that company to work or not. And the way it works, afterwards you ask from the scale from 0 to 10. Those who have said 9 and 10, the probability of recommending that company are promoters. Those who have put 7 and 8, they're called passive, they're not going to do anything. And those who are 0 to 6 are considered detractors, so they will actively persuade not to not to go in the company. And the score is a difference between promoters and detractors. And the way to look at this scale is, so if there are more detractors than promoters, you're in trouble. If there are more promoters than detractors, you're in a good shape. And then there are variation of the scale. So everything starting on top of 0 is good. Now, let me show you what is the situation in Latvia. These are not the only companies, of course. This is just a list of 96, but most of them are major Latvian companies. And what we see is that just 2 companies are above 0. So what it is essence mean, and it's quite ironic, is that majority of Latvian employees of different level, not just basic, blue collars, white collars, CEOs. So majority of Latvian employees wouldn't recommend to work anywhere. Because like there's not many other companies left over. We can speculate a lot about what it means and why it's so, but I think all of us have a job to do, both in private sector and in public sector, to change that. The reason for that, and there are many different discussions, of course, and Baltics, I don't know, sometimes go, I think, too far into blaming themselves for being too negative, you know. As a matter of fact, we do know that there is negativity bias in all communication. That's why we've seen it in politics very well. It's sad, it's true. It's proven that people who tell bad news are seen as smarter, you know, than those who say good news. And why I'm telling you that is because in the context of employee attraction and retention, it takes an active effort to communicate good news. You know, so if we use the metaphor or comparison with the relationships, you know, so for every bad news, whatever that is, you need five good ones. So guys, good luck generating them. It is a constant work, and I totally agree with both previous speakers. It's everyone, everywhere, all the time. There's not a point where you would say like, oh, it's too much. You know, we've done our job. Meaning, communication is doing excellent. And the other reason why it's important is, one thing is it's just human aspect, you know, make people more happy, you know, they have better health, they have better immune systems, thus they also have less sick days, you know, thus they are more productive, and thus they are doing a better job. So you're interested in having happy employees, not only, you know, just to somewhat go ahead, but also to essentially increase the performance of your company. So I would say it's question number one, at least in many conversations that I'm having with the boards and CEOs right now. So that's as for the importance, and I will, as I promised, I'll go through 10 trends, tips and tricks as for what can be done in this respect. And let's start with the first one. I was very happy to see the first presentation, and you saw the video started with 3 words: driven by purpose. And it seems like, you know, years ago, I remember when I was studying at Stockholm School of Economics, everything that has to do with the soft side of companies seemed like a bullshit, you know. What vision, mission, vision, what is that? It's like the same thing, copy paste, you know. But no, what we see right now, it has huge importance, and if you don't believe me, ask millennials, ask young generation. They are increasingly, I wouldn't say even idealistic, they are increasingly, you know, or at least that generation, narcissistic, and they want to make sure that they have an impact on the world, that they work in an organization for the purpose. New York Times published 1.5 years ago a new top as for best employers, or the most attractive employers, and we're writing about how it's changing. Years ago, you know, you would have just big corporations. Right now, you start seeing FBI, CIA, hospitals in the very top. It's because the young workforce wants to see the meaning behind their work. What it means, I think, for the public sector, for military, it's actually a great opportunity. If anything, then you have plenty to tell as for why it's important, and you're doing a great job. The second thing, and then I'll show you example from a private sector. Of course, for private sector, it's harder to find, you know, that part, but then you always have an opportunity to go with corporate social responsibility as at least one part of your work that shows that you do care about something else than your profits. And here's an example from one of our clients. Tele2 Shared Service Center is essentially a shared service center. Majority of their staff is IT specialists, and we designed strategy for attracting and retaining IT specialists, but then as a part of that we just realized that physically there are not enough of them. And one specific thing we noticed, but it's an also generally known thing, is that we miss young women in IT. Women are just not applying and not graduating in IT field. So we have now drafted basically a plan, and it's carried out by PR agency as for attracting or promoting IT as a field for studies for young girls, and it's I think it's a wonderful project. The second kind of suggestion or advice I can give, focus on hiring massively. So if you have limited budget and you're thinking like where to invest it, correct hiring is absolutely critical. There's no amount of money and training that can change a wrongly hired person, let's say so. And everyone asks me what are the magic trick in hiring, so what works, and I would say still employee referrals is best tool by far. So employees recommending other employees, and there are elaborate systems, and I often get asked how much I should pay for employees if I hire the person they recommend, and there are lots of books written about it, but generally it's not about money. Remember about that. There are different kind of mechanisms of thanking employees, of motivating them to hire their colleagues. But what is important is that hiring should be everyone's business. It's not HR business, it's not recruiters' business, it's CEO's business, it's everyone's business. And here two quick examples. Squalio, our client as well, IT company, came to us and told, okay, we need social media campaign quickly. We need to hire 2 developers in 2 weeks. And we said, great, we'll do you social media, a social media campaign, but how about we engage all your employees? And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And what we did, we printed just T-shirts and announced a competition. So guys, take this shirt, hiring web developer now, and go to different places and make photos of funny places you're trying to look for employees. So they went crazy. They took it as a game, and they went to hospitals, birth hospitals, and they made a photo with a president and where else no, and all of that was on social media. So the effect was coming actually from them, and we didn't have any problems hiring people. And then the second example from, as I told, another of our dear clients, Tele2 Shared Service Centre, employee referral program. Again, typically we just announce money that we will give if we will hire one, but it's much more complex than that. You have to think of some gamification, of some point system, of regularly informing them, on making it interesting for them. So it's no different from doing marketing campaigns outside. You have to do it inside as well. Now the third thing, very simple one as well, majority of you know already, that a higher attitude, not skills, and not education. And it's kind of, I guess, goes without saying right now, but attitude is absolute key. With the way things go right now, you can train pretty much the person with the logical thinking or cognitive abilities plus right attitude to do everything. Fourth one, onboarding, very important, always oftentimes missed, and the part that is missed is even if we do okay training, on-job training, so what kind of systems, where the passwords, we do miss the most important part, that is turning strangers into friends, and it is critical. Again, there are Gallup studies that basically say that your chances of making sure that the employee stays within the company increases number of times if they have a best friend at work. So it's critical to work on having every employee to have a best friend at work, and there are many different ways to do that. I'm not going to go into details. Essentially, you have to remember they are human. They're not employees. They have interests. They have families, and it's important for all of that be part of as well job place. The fifth one, very popular right now. But again, even in Latvia, I'm telling you, it works. Create a flexible work culture. I know it's much more difficult for public sector, but if you're even if you can give some flexibility as for the time you start your work, you know, it's people are different. Some wake up early, some work late. Don't push people into same boxes. And again, you might think, you know, it's fine as it is. I'm telling you, when it comes to young people, they do have different demands, and meaning we all will have to adapt the ways we work. The sixth one, give feedback and praise. Again, majority of corporations would have once or twice a year performance appraisals, but they are fairly formal. What we see more and more often, 2 years ago, big corporations told like, oh, we're not going to do them at all. Now they're coming back to doing them again, but it's changing to become more informal, to give on a more regular basis. And again, you might not think it's important, but again, in respect to young generation, critically important. And I'm always using the example of social media. If you put a photo on Instagram or Facebook, you expect immediate gratification. You expect likes now. And if you don't get them, you think something is wrong. I see it now with my employees. Like, they do job as they do, and then at the end of the day, they say, Zane, we need to talk. And I'm saying, yes, what happened? They said, like, I need some feedback. And I said, like, all is good. If I'm not saying that something is wrong, all is good. They said, like, no. If you're not constantly saying it's good at the end of the day, if you're not giving me likes, something is bad. You know, it's that feeling, if I put that photo and there's no likes, like something is wrong with that photo. So it's the same in the job place. You have to, and I know it's tiresome, it takes time, but you'll have to do it more and more often. That's why one of the suggestions is to outsource it. Try to make sure employees do it among themselves so that you as a boss don't have to do it all the time from top. So there are, again, different kind of mechanisms. And the second thing is cultivating gratitude, something that I think in the Baltics should be done more regularly. We do forget that things are actually very okay. If we compare it with majority of the world, even if we compare it with similar sectors and activities, even in Europe. So reminding that we should be grateful for what we have as well. Not that it means that we stop developing or improving things, but it's an important part to do as well. Seventh, boost workplace happiness. Again, experiences are more rewarding than objects. Now Christmas is coming. If you're thinking about what to give your employees for for Christmas, don't give them stuff, you know, stuffs are compared, you know, this gadget costs this and this gadget costs that. Last year I received gadget that was twice more expensive, while this year I received a less expensive gadget, and so on and so forth. Think about more experiences. And then again, like small, tiny things do as well help people feeling better. And what we see, you can learn a lot from tech companies, is how they work with their employees when it comes to snacks and office design. Eighth thing that again I think is I wouldn't say that there are differences in the mentalities and different cultures, but I think that even in the short term, in Baltics as well, we have to think consciously about eliminating all status symbols. And this particular photo actually is of an actual office. It's an office of from New York City. It's a mayor's office. That person here, number one, see, is Michael Bloomberg, mayor at that time. This is where he sits. That was his office. That was his desk. So right now as well, when I'm approached by companies that have a board, the floor of the company for the board, and then they have a long table, and at the end of that they have a big chair, and they have parking for CEO and all that, and I'm saying like, okay, well, I don't buy it. You say that it's important for your clients. You say that people don't take you seriously. Like I already don't buy it. But trust me, the new generation again, and those specialists who are in high demand, IT specialists, will not buy it at all. They want to feel equal. They're not coming to work for some asshole who feels that he or she is so important. So that's another part. Ninth, hiring, very important. Recruiting, again, in respect to recruiting, referrals is the magic thing. The next thing, recruit in social media. The traditional job boards and the rest don't work at all. One thing, and the second thing, you don't want active job seekers. You want passive job seekers, those who don't look for a job. These are the best candidates. They stay longer. They are better quality candidates. The trick is to find them, and you have to find them. They're not gonna approach you. And here, again, oftentimes I get to ask, so where to invest limited funds? Okay, social media or Clear. So it must be LinkedIn. If it's, you know, it must be LinkedIn. Well, sorry to say, it's not LinkedIn. Again, statistics is different for each country. In Latvia, particularly, LinkedIn is better to do business to business or general image building, and for hiring highest level people. So kind of, you know, heads of department. For rest of hiring, I would suggest you spend time on Facebook. And here is one example. So what we do, we have right now a startup called Upmatched, and we are doing, apart from doing mobile and social, different kind of solutions for our companies, such as Accenture. We also do chatbots, and I'm skipping because I'm running out of time, and that would be my last suggestion. Really embrace tech. There are tons of different softs, quite cheap, to improve both your applicant tracking systems, to ensure you have better appraisals for employees, better communication tools. There are plenty of solutions out there. A majority of them are very accessible, and you can try them out and experiment a little bit. And here is, as I started telling wrong order, our experiments with chatbots. So the thing, my startup and the thing that we are developing as a service for our clients is chatbot recruiting. So it's basically a robot who is approaching potential candidates in a Facebook and then starts conversation. And conversation is not only part of the interview and selection process, but it's actually part of persuasion process. So you start by saying, have you heard about Accenture? Do you know that this and this and this? Here is the video. What do you care for more? More for purpose, for team, or for career growth? Then you choose, and then you can draft that conversation much better. And here is one example. We approached 700. We actually, we approached 724 students. We had 192 full interviews. Average length was 12 minutes, so it's quite an achievement. And out of them, 64 candidates were interested and also complied to our needs. Of course, not all of them were hired by far, no, but it just substantially expanded the pipeline. And here's another example, WebHelp. It's telesales, not telesales, but as well, shared service center in Latvia. And this is how we approach actively a youth that particularly speaks in Russian, because that was their need. So in short, what I wanted to say, it's an exciting field. You can do a lot if you really focus on people, if you communicate better. That's it.